All right, guys, we are live for a little podcast conversation here with my good friend, Mr. Jeremy John Shimmin. You guys might recognize him from previous podcasts. Here, I'll switch over the screen to him so you can say hey.
Hey, guys. How's everyone going?
Got the vape going. And
love it.
Nice, man. So you reached out to me about a week ago, a couple weeks ago. I lose track of time lately.
Time is just illusion anyway. It doesn't matter.
This is true. So you were telling me how you had some breakthroughs and some things that you recently discovered that you wanted to share live on air. And I wanted to have you on to do that. So that's what we're doing here. For those of you guys who are tuning in, you can expect some pretty entertaining conversation and also some pretty in-depth understandings from Jeremy. So you can expect to be entertained. You can expect to gain a lot of education. But really, I'm just excited to have Jeremy on and to really just share the Jeremy magic. So by the way,
no pressure, right?
never any pressure. It's just, it's there. You got to put some pressure on in order to like create some magic.
We're going to turn a lump of coal into a diamond on this one. We're all good.
So like literally we haven't spoken spoken face to face in maybe months, maybe a year. I mean, how long?
18 months, I think it's been.
Damn, that's pretty good. Yeah. Considering time's an illusion, you're pretty good at.
We're just getting old.
Okay. All right,
but that's okay. You still look as young as you did before. Just more experience on you. That's all.
I suppose so. I appreciate the feedback. So okay, let's just get it started. Wherever you'd like to start.
Well, let's pick up roughly from the last time we sat down, because the last time we sat down, I'd just come up to the mountains, and I'd met an amazing woman, and I'd started to realize that there are some things in life you could get access to that were simple. And I started to help people, trying to spread some word about, making yourself healthier and happier and all that kind of jazz. And I'd gone through a lot of trauma before. I've had one of those lives that's been, quite interesting. And it didn't really stop at that point when I came to the mountains. I started teaching meditation and some other bits and pieces. And then life really dropped a big, that's 11:11 for anyone in Australia. I'll be back in 1 sec, so I hit that off. You see, I have a tablet that acts as my alarm clock next to my bed, and I have an alarm on everything at 11:11 because the missus and I every day at 11:11 run to each other and say, I love you, or send each other a message at 11:11. It's like our guarantee that at least once a day you stop for a second and appreciate the love of the other person. That's what that alarm was, just for you. So, so I came up here and I thought I had all these answers. For those who don't know me, I'm a master NLP trainer and hypnosis trainer. I've spent 30 odd years meditating, studied every religion you can imagine. Basically, I tour guide the rabbit hole and have done for a lot of years. And life, just when I got up here, I thought everything was going great. And about a year after being up here, which I think is about, I think just before we stopped talking, or just before after we talked, life just basically rained shit down so hard it was ridiculous. And the kind of crap that, not doing stupid things or anything, just life events that you just didn't expect, just shit fell basically really hard. And it broke me again. I was only just healing coming out of this thing, and I broke. There's no other way to say it. I just broke. And anyway, I stopped for a bit, and because I'd done so much mind, body, spirit stuff that I couldn't work out what the hell had gone so wrong, and why I was so broken, given how much I know. I mean, so many people I know call me for advice, and I give them a piece of advice and they go off and their lives are happy again, and I couldn't work out why I couldn't get the change to work in me for this occasion. So basically I tried everything I knew. And basically, I got to a point where I realized that the mind-body-spirit concept is somewhat bullshit. I know, like, a lot of people will be going, well, who are you to say that? Look, trust me, you hear me out, and just make your own choice at the end of this. But the reason why I say it's bullshit is it's not complete. It's missing two very large components to it. And that was what I had to kind of understand, is I had to go back to scratch. So when I finally hit the point where I wasn't getting any better, it was like the stress and all the depression and things were like the worst they'd ever been. They were, I was getting cycles of like a week or two, and then just emotionally just breaking down constantly. I had to really stop and really start to think about what the hell I was doing to start with, and where I was coming from. And this is where this journey begins. And so I had to get to a point where, the idea of mind, body, spirit, it's like, you have a mind, body, and spirit, and you're all these. It's so abstract. It doesn't really. It sounds nice. It offers a bit of comfort, I guess, if you're not really going through anything dramatic. But it is just a bit of fluff, unless you really start to break it down. Now, what the question was that really got me to think about this is the question of, what are we? Right? Not just taking the answers that people have given you. So, I could say, if I said to you, what are you? What would your answer be? Now, I don't mean what have people told you you are, not what people tell you you are, not what you were taught in school that you are, but what is your experience of you, and what have you figured out you to be?
That's an interesting question.
Yeah, I know, right? And for all the answers I have in the world to fix people, I didn't have an answer. I'd asked myself a question I really didn't know, and I was sitting there going, "What the hell am I?" Right? Like, it was a bit of a life-changing moment where you realize that I didn't even know what I was, and this is where I had to start. I had to forget about being happy. I had to forget about success. I had to forget about money. I had to forget about what I wanted. I had to forget about all of it, because all of it was pinned off what I thought I was. And that's the key of what we really are, is what we think we are. It's what you call presupposition. So if I say a sentence like, the window broke, presuppositions are things that must be true in order for our statement to be true. So if I say the window broke, a presupposition is that A, the window wasn't broken before, and B, something broke the window. They're two presuppositions. You don't say them, but they're said by saying the window broke. You get what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
it's like the context behind the statement.
The thing between the lines. Yeah, all those things, it's that kind of piece. And so I really had to go back and start to figure out what the seed of what we were was. So as I said, you forget about being happy, stop trying to be happy, stop trying to be successful, forget about your money, forget about your wants, forget about your contributions to the world. Just be still. And I had to be still. Now, if you be still for just a minute now, what do you actually notice?
Sensations.
Yeah, right. So have you noticed the fact that you actually notice it all? If you think about it, the fact that you can actually notice something is incredibly important, right? Because the sensations are the bits of what you notice, but the fact that you can actually notice things, this is the key piece, right? You are actually aware. So if you look back at what we're told we're human beings, and you could debate whether you believe in evolution or creationism or whatever, dogma you believe in, it doesn't really matter. You can know, ultimately you are not like, you're not in your body. For example, if someone was to say to me, "Oh, you're a human being, you're this walking, talking meat battery," I kind of said to him, I started thinking about it, I went, hang on, am I really? And the funny thing was I started thinking about, like, I can't really say I'm in my body, even for a sense, because my eyes, even from a logical sense, are on the outside of me. So I don't really see from inside my body as I do when you're driving a car. You see from inside the car. You can see the car surrounding you. You are in the car, but we're not really in our bodies the way we're in a car, because you're seeing straight out from the surface. It's almost like this is a bit of a drone, you know, like you got your goggles and you got a little drone racing nowadays, really popular. You're not really in the drone, but you can see from the front of the drone. Right? So I started to kind of realize I'm not the body, you know. I'm not my mind, because I've said my whole life I have thoughts and I don't know where they come from. Huh? And I'm not my emotions, because they can change. And I'm not a whole bunch of other stuff. I'm just this awareness. That's what I am. I'm thing that notices all these things. I'm the observer, right? This is what we truly are. This is consciousness. Is the observation, the awareness of things. You know, that's really what you are. And you've got to start there. Is get rid of everything else and realize, just to start with, you are an observer. And that observation is your consciousness. It's an awareness. And there's two types of things we're aware of, right? We've got this internal thing that we're aware of, right? And then we're aware of stuff externally of us. Pretty simple, right? Yeah. So, like, for example, internally, I could say, we're going to make this very simple for people to be able to follow. And by all means, you know, talk about other people with this. It's very simple to start with. Internally, I have these things that I would call thoughts and feelings, right? They're the two things I kind of deal with, right? If you sit down, you have thoughts pop into your head somehow, and you have these emotions are the other part, right? So you have these two things from an internal sense. You could just say, if you want to, you know, if you're a bit scientifically minded and you need to attach it to something, you could kind of say that your thoughts are kind of based out of your brain, even though they're not really, but let's just say your thoughts are based out of your brain, and let's say your emotions are based out of your heart. And these are two organs in your body that have enormous electromagnetic signatures, you know, signatures that science can actually measure. You know, your heart's magnetic field can be measured 5 meters away from you. You know, when you're like 8 meters away from another human being, your heart and their heart are already interacting. Mothers and their babies are probably the best demonstrators of this. So if Bubs is crying, when mum walks to the room, Bubs will start to settle down, because the magnetic fields of their heart start to talk. Yeah. So these are two very, very powerful kind of transmission organs that we have. Everything we have is important and powerful. Just these two tend to be the transmissions. So you can think of, you've kind of got a mind, and you've kind of got, I like to say our spirit is where our emotions and our feels all occur, right? So you've got a mind and your spirit, and these are the internal things. Externally, I have this thing that we call a body. I like to call it my skin bag. You know, it's the skin bag, I mean. And then we've got this space around us, right? Like you're always in the world, or whatever the world is to you. You know? So you can call that, say, your skin bag in your environment, for example. Right? So you can think of it that we've got kind of, our brain is like our mind. We have a heart that kind of creates the thing that we call our spirit, our emotions and things like that. We've got a skin bag, and then we've got this environment. And you see, we've already got 4 things. So mind, body, spirit's already one behind us here, right? And it's important why. There's a reason why they're missing some pieces. There's a reason why environment is missed out. So let's just consider this mind, body, spirit, and space, right? Let's consider these things the 4 pillars, right? And you are not these 4 pillars. You're actually the observation of these 4 pillars. But these are the 4 things that we typically feed in. I mean, almost every experience or problem people go through, I bet you could batch out into one of these 4 things. Oh, I love seeing people drink water. So these are like the 4 pillars that set us up. Now, the reason why people normally can't understand things like this is you're taught, one of the things you're taught is, and if you really think about this, you just taught it. Like, I love how people, what dogma really is when you rehash an answer someone else gave you, but you never actually did the thing. That's what dogma is really about. It's not just a belief that's stuck. It's that someone told you something once. You believed them with no proof whatsoever. Maybe because they were wearing a white coat, they were a scientist or a doctor. Maybe because they had a square hat with a funny tassel on it, you assume they were smart and knew things. But you just believe stuff you're told. And we're all guilty of this. Like even myself, I believed all sorts of stuff and I'd never actually gone and tested it, right? And so we're kind of taught these things and we never stop and question them, you know, because otherwise you're a conspiracy theorist or a tinfoil hat wearer. We'll get to the difference between what I'm talking about and that. Well, I'm not saying that the information that they're telling you is a misleading lie on purpose to screw you over or anything. It's just realizing that we're told a lot of things that creates a lot of presuppositions. We're told the window broke. There's a lot of balls and a lot of windows and a lot of questions of how long's the window been around, all sorts of things that we start to believe without stopping and realizing we're believing these things. And the more of these that we gather, the more we get to. And I'm going to digress for just a second. The secret here is to realize you are not some batch of atoms, okay? If you really want to mess with a scientist, ask them what holds the atom together, right? What stops the bits of the atom from flying away? And they'll go, oh, it's, you know, smaller bits of atoms inside of it. And they make up more and more particles. Oh, it's these particles. How do they hold it? Are they glue? Oh, no, they do it. And eventually you get to this thing where they go, oh, they do it electromagnetically. Even an atomic physicist will go, oh, it's some electromagnetic thing. So you go, oh, great. Okay, electromagnetic. So electromagnetics have fields, right? A field is like a space of which there can be a force of electricity. And so you say to a scientist, can you define a field for me? You would think like fields, you know, like radio fields, things like that. You think after hundreds of years, at least 200-300 years of fields being understood, you think we'd have a definition, right? There's one guy called Ken Wheeler, and you'll find him on YouTube. I can't remember what his YouTube channel is. I can find a link and I'll put it in and we can give it to someone. Ken Wheeler, he wrote a book. It's Understanding the Secrets of Magnetics, I think. And he's the first person, he wrote that in like 2008 or 9, I think. He's the first person actually, since Maxwell and Tesla, to actually define what a field is. Like, first person. We hadn't defined a field. So when we talk about magnetic fields and things, science doesn't have a definition of what a field is. It falls apart when you ask that question. You know? And it kind of shows you, it rattles out some of these presuppositions. So you're not just a bunch of atoms put together, right? You're a field. And this is what, you know, if you look at chakra photography, what's called Krillian photography is a good example. They take a photo and you've got these color things. That's a field around you, right? It's not actually a field around you. It is a field of you, right? So remember, because we're not this skin bag.
I like that. A field of you.
Yeah. It is the field of you in a way. I mean, maybe it's not all of it, but it's just, it's a photograph of part, you know, it's a slight representation of you. Mm-hmm. Because we're not this skin bag, you know. I'm not my body. I'm this thing that's observing, and my body is not the thing observing. My body's just one of the things that gives that thing that's observing information. So really what you are is this field of electricity. Now, there's two types of electricity. There's polar electricity, which is plus and minus, right? That's what runs your iPhones and your refrigerators and your TVs and your whatevers. It's plus and minus. It's batteries. You know, and what normally happens is if you have a polar system, a polar electric system, depending on what school of thought you're from, the electron comes out the negative, runs around the circuit, finds the positive, and discharges during the circuit, right? And eventually, you run the battery for long enough, and the stored energy in the battery goes to zero, battery no longer works, right? That's polar electricity. You have X amount of energy stored that you generated. It discharges. The negative is trying to find the positive and all gone. That's what happens. Then you have this other type of electricity. You know, it's like, why does your heart not run out? We don't have to plug into a power point to keep our heart going, right? So our heart runs off this other type. And the weather doesn't have to plug into an electrical outlet to generate clouds and storms and things. You know, the weather never knocks on your door. A cloud doesn't knock on your door and say, excuse me, can I please plug into your electrical outlet so I can go have a thunderstorm down the street? You know, so
that's such a strange thought.
I know, right? And this electricity that you know our hearts run on, and that the weather runs on, and that trees live on, and everything in nature lives on, is It's the same electricity you used to get when you were sitting in school and you'd sit there and you'd rub your feet on the carpet and then you'd lean to the next person and go, bzzz.
Yeah, static electricity, right?
Exactly, right? So there's, cold electricity, which is this polar stuff, plus and minus. Then there's this static electricity. And the thing about static is as you're rubbing your feet on the carpet, you're going, you're building up charge, right? And then you lean to the person next to you who's got this amount of charge, less than you do because you've been rubbing your feet on the carpet. That's what's giving you more charge. Now, when you go bzzz to them, right, what happens is you just don't go here. They don't go here. They come up, you come down. It equalizes, right? This is what static electricity is really about. So one electricity goes from negative to positive and destroys itself and ends. The other electricity brings two things together. Making sense? No? And an easy way of thinking of it is polar electricity is kind of like a man-made thing, right? If you have a line, you could say that way is positive and that way is negative, right? So, if you draw an arrow, one direction is positive, one direction is negative. It's what a battery looks like, positive and negative, right? And the head of the arrow is positive and the tail of the arrow is negative. That's a man-made concept. Nothing in nature occurs in a straight line. Nothing. And in fact, it's kind of like what we talk about when we talk about polar electricity. Our whole understanding as a society, basically, of electricity is basically looking at a tree and only seeing the tree part of it growing up from the ground. Get what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that works well until you're about 4 or 5, and then all of a sudden you discover that there's a root structure underneath. And the root structure is kind of normally just as big in a way as the tree structure. So realistically, while we can think from one point to another, it could be negative to positive or whatever, nature doesn't think like that. Nature starts in the middle and goes out both ways. And you can see this that's the tree, that's the roots, right? You look at galaxies, they spiral, they come out and they come from a center point. Look at tornadoes, they turn up into a center point, right? All these things come out in pairs. So if you've got nature creates electricity from the center out, these are the arrows, you end up with positive on the outside and a negative on the inside. This is like monopoles and stuff, right? This is when Tesla's talking about counter-rotational magnetic fields, the Tesla stuff. This is what he's talking about, right? So you could either have the arrows pointing out like that, right? Because remember, if you got positive this way and and negative this way, well, nature does it this way. And then you could also do the opposite this way. And this is kind of like this. Get what I mean?
Well, I kind of lost you because I thought you were saying that like the positives go that way and the negatives go this way.
Yeah, well, but what I'm saying is that they can go both ways, right? Sometimes you've got the positives on the outside and the negative on the inside, but then just as equally, because you've got positive is an opposite of negative. So if we have positives on the outside, negative on the inside, we can turn it and have negatives on the inside and positives on the outside, for example.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
Right? Yeah, so what I'm saying is that when you have these two structures, what it results in is spinning. Right? When something coming into itself or coming out of itself, it's spinning. Like a tornado, things come in and out, right? A tornado is just a stretched out version of this. And so things either spin clockwise or they spin anti-clockwise, depending on which way this is going, right?
Yeah.
Like little gyroscopes. Little gyroscopes are what little atoms are like when you get to science. So now you can just get a basic understanding of how atoms are electric phenomena. You, supposedly made of atoms, are an electric phenomenon, right? And you're a spinning thing. This is why the world, in a way, spins counterclockwise, and why they say the Earth goes counterclockwise around the sun, because natural stuff spins counterclockwise. Man-made stuff typically spins clockwise. Just how we use electrical stuff, right? But anyway, so basically what I'm saying is that you have more in common with an AM/FM radio than you do your iPhone. I know your iPhone's like an incredibly smart toy and it can do all these cool things, and a human being can do all these cool things, but we don't work off polar electricity. We work off static. So you really do have more in common with a radio in the car dashboard or on your desk than you do this thermal microwave thing we call a mobile phone, right? So anyway, that's just to give you some idea that the idea that we are an energy field is not just some hippie stuff. It can be scientifically proven, and it has been for over 100 type years. that you are electrical, right, at a very key level. And it's important to realize that you're electrical because it allows you to understand that you have these fields, right? Not just go, my heart has a field. No, we are just complex fields. We really are such complex fields.
Honestly, can I just interject something?
Absolutely.
In the same way that when we look up at the sky at night and we get a sense of perspective, like, wow, the universe is a lot bigger than I thought it was. I'm kind of small in relation. And then you like compare yourself to an ant, and then you say that how big you are compared to an ant kind of thing. And you play like this comparison game, but, but ultimately what you're doing is you're increasing your awareness of the things around you, and just your, like, the fact that you exist and you're just a part of the giant whole kind of thing. What you're saying right here, I love the electromagnetic side of things, because when you bring that up and I start to actually like feel it in my body, how I am like an electromagnetic being, it also has a similar role. It serves a similar purpose in that it helps me recognize that I'm more than just my thoughts, right? I'm more than just who I think I am.
You see, this is what we want to tap, is that exact thing. Yes.
So thank you for helping me remember that, and
okay.
Feel that.
And we're gonna really, I don't want to get too caught up in getting technical or heavy. I just want people to realize that there's two types of electricity. There's the electricity that runs your phone, then there's the electricity that keeps your heart going. And static electricity is continuously going, basically, and the whole world runs on it. The Shimmin resonance, the weather patterns run on static electricity. All the things in nature run on static. See, the problem with Einstein's gravity process is that gravity doesn't really exist. What gravity really is stored energy in the universe, and energy is stored in the universe as electricity. And electricity has what you call dielectric divergence, if you want a convergence, which is, dielectric voidance for you technical people. And that basically is the electricity of the Earth is what creates the magnetic effect of us getting pulled onto the planet. It's like the old question of gravity. Does gravity pull you from your feet down to the Earth, or does it push you from the top of the head down to the Earth? And the answer is from the top of your head, right? That's what electricity does. And when you have a neodymium magnet, it's created by putting neodymium in a capacitor and just zapping it with a whole bunch of electricity to make it statically imbalanced. And that's why it can attract things. And it's the same as it's got a gravity. A magnet's not really magnetic. It's more got a gravity to it, to particular types of things. So as you just said, you're not just your thought and other stuff, but let's go back to that, right? So we know that at a base level, we are electrical. It's really important to realize you're not just a bunch of atoms that just got stuck together in a cool way. You're this electrical field, and all of the bits of your physicalness are held together by this field, right? Now, electrical fields can even be noticed. You notice it socially. Like if you ever walk into, like a huge, any church congregation, and everyone's kind of in the moment doing their thing connected, it's like an electrical feeling across the air. You go into a sports stadium when everyone's worked up. There's, like people say, sparks are flying in the air. We use this it's in our language. It's hidden all the time in our language that we talk about the world. I fell in love, sparks flew. Well, you connected electrically with someone very heavily. That's what love in a kind of way is. If you start reading between the lines of the things we've been saying forever, it's there. This is not some crazy out there thing. You already know this stuff. Just there's a way you can scientifically prove it very easily, and it's not some, oh, you're not some electrical, but no, it's really simple, right? And even if you walk, I drove into the shops to meet someone the other day, and as I pull in the car park, I'm like feeling a little bit weird, and I'm like, what's going on here, And I look up, and these two people are having this huge argument. It was like there was a huge electrical discharge going off in the car park, and I could feel it a mile away, and this is what I mean by you're more like an AM/FM radio than an iPhone. Like you kind of can approach a situation and you get a vibe about stuff. That's what the vibe is the electrical nature of what is going on. It's not some hippie crap. You are an antenna in a very cool, complex way, and the world is electric. And you're electric too. And when you put two magnets, they interact. And just like when you walk into a situation, there's an electrical signature, a field of the situation, and you have a field, and the interaction between those two fields, well, if you're paying attention, your observer can notice that. I mean, if you just like, if you're not being aware, then you walk into that, you won't notice anything. But if you're an aware person, you can feel someone's pain before you get there. You can feel someone's anger before they even open their mouths, you know. How do you do that? Well, it's your heart, for example. It's your heart's electromagnetic field is reaching out and interacting with the other field, you know, and then your heart, which is like your spirit, is communicating to the observer, right? So as I said, we're this observer of consciousness in the middle. This is you. You're just the watcher. And you've got these things. You've got like a mind, and you've got this spirit, your heart, and then you've got like a body, and then you've got this space. Call this half the internal stuff, and this is the external stuff. And the observer, you are not these things. You know, like, do you know where your thoughts come from? Because I sure as hell have no idea some days. You ever just had a thought pop in your head and you go, where the heck did that come from?
You just pick up a different radio station? Is that all that was?
I don't see, now you're asking the good questions. I don't have the answers, but you're asking the right questions now. You're not saying, oh, because my mind's stuffed. You know, people go, oh, because I've got a broken brain. No. You've got to ask the question, where do they even come? We don't know. You know, it's okay not to know stuff. Like, it's kind of like we're conditioned in life to have to know the answers. But, you know, realistically, knowing the best questions unanswered is more fun. Like, where do your thoughts come from? I don't know. They turn up some days. I'll be walking along and I'll have a thought about somebody. And I'll be like, where did that come from? You know, I don't know. You know, it's like I'll be walking along and I might have an emotion. Just all of a sudden I feel emotional in some sense. Where's that come from? I've really spent a lot of years asking this question, and I can't tell anyone with any certainty where it comes from. I've given these things a label. So I say that my thoughts come from my mind. Now, if you look at meditation, right, people say, you know, the idea of meditation is to empty your mind and, you know, quieten it of thought. If I ignore my thoughts for a while, new thoughts turn up. It's almost implausible to empty your mind, right? It can be done, but for most people, they'll never get anywhere near that, right? Realistically, when you talk to Buddhist monks, what they tell you is to give your mind something to do. So instead of trying to empty the thing, because our minds like to create filling for any voids that we have. If you walk in and not sure what someone's talking about, your mind kind of creates the filling, even though you don't have evidence. It just kind of creates something that you can work off, right? So instead of trying to empty your mind in meditation, you focus your mind, right? And you say, oh, mind, monkey mind, focus on my breathing. And it goes, okay. And your mind focuses on your breathing. And because it's focused on your breathing, it stops generating thought. You get what I mean? So even though I can't define where our thoughts come from, we could just label it our mind. Right? So our thoughts come from our mind. And if we say that, then we could say our emotions come from our spirit or our heart. Right? I think our heart's just as important as our mind internally. The magnetic signatures are... Your heart's magnetic signatures are bigger than your mind, but they're both aerials in a sense because they're static. That's how, you know, AM, FM radio and everything works. You know, when you turn the radio on, it goes static electricity over the air, right? That's how you know we're in this realm. So, you know, you get emotions from your spirit, and then your body, on an external sense, sends you these signals. They're called pleasure and pain. You know, like you really only get two signals from your body. It's either balanced or it's giving you a pleasure or pain response. You know, and then, just like I said, we're an aerial, the space around you. When you start to get into electric universe, I would really suggest anyone who really wants to kind of understand how to merge the scientific and spiritual type stuff, really go look up Walter Russell. He's got, I think it's the Secret of the Universe or something. You can download it for free as a PDF off Google. It's like a book written in 1926. Just read the preface and you'll start to realize how. Now, Walter Russell's the guy who understood the atomic structure to give us the A-bomb. He's an English scientist. He was well regarded through the entire community. He's not some hippie. And he basically explains how the world is electric and you know, changes the periodic table slightly into harmonics and just, you know, that kind of stuff. So you remember, let's come back to this. You are consciousness. You are the observer, right? This is you, your awareness. And then you've got this mind and you've got a spirit and you've got a body and you've got space, right? And these things are feeding into you. You know, your mind gives you thought. Your spirit kind of gives you emotions. Your space kind of either takes energy or gives you energy, and your body sends you pleasure and pain. But what are they sending them to? The observer. If someone kicks you in the nuts, what is it that notices that your nuts got kicked? The consciousness got noticed your nuts got kicked. No one can kick your consciousness, but they kick your nuts. Then your consciousness goes, oh, wow, the body is sending us pain signals, and it is aware that you were kicked in the nuts, but your nuts are not your consciousness, and now actually connected, but your consciousness is aware of your nuts being busted, right?
Wait, so you're telling me that my nuts are not my consciousness? This whole time I thought that's what it was.
Your nuts are not your own. They belong to your body, not to your consciousness, right? Your consciousness is just aware of them. Alone, seriously, you think about this is where meditation really comes in. Is people think meditation's about kind of going into some world and then magically leveling up, like in Warcraft or something. It's like, I'm level 80 because I sat in a cave for 6 weeks and didn't speak. Yeah, let's put you back in life and see how balanced you stay in the real world. It's easy to stay balanced when you're in a cave and there's no one there to bother you. If you think about it, it's like if we're electrical and you take yourself away from all the electrical signals in the world, it should be really easy to keep your signal going, right? But you want to put your signal in the world with all the other signals running around there and all the other things, like electrical wires, like Wi-Fi signals, Bluetooth is everywhere. You don't see these things, so we don't think about them because they're not in our face. They are in our face in a weird way, but we're not observing the electrical nature of the world. And this is where you've got to change the paradigm, is realize you're electrical, that we are affected by electrical things. Does that mean that we shouldn't have these things? No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that, like anything, like smart meters, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, mobile phones, I'm not saying it's bad, but I can absolutely say they have an impact on us, right? And whether it's good or bad is a debate for very smart, intelligent people, way smarter than me to have, I can just say for sure they have an impact on us. And if you don't believe me, turn your phone off for an entire day, leave it at home and go live for a day, or go for a walk through the bush for a day, or go camping or something. Or go for a walk along the beach without your phone, without anything that's going to be of polar electricity. Take yourself away from the polar electricity. Go for a bushwalk barefoot. Go hug a tree. Go boost yourself with static electricity. Don't and minimize your polar electrical kind of exposure, and see how you feel. Don't believe me. Remember, don't believe what people say just because they say it and it sounds right. Go test this shit yourself. It's really important you test it yourself. So if you look at the fact we're consciousness, when we die, like you look at people who die, when they die, it's like their bodies may die. They can go anywhere, but they're still thinking. And if you bring them back to life, they come back and go, wow, I went and I saw this and I saw that. It's like their consciousness doesn't end. It continues. So that's how you definitely know we are not our body. We are not our mind. We are not our space. We're not our spirit. We're this soul, this consciousness in the middle. We are that, and that goes beyond all the things that we observe, right? So for example, if I say close your eyes, right? And imagine yourself in your absolute most favorite place in the world. If you don't have one, make one up, right? But make sure this place you're imagining is the greatest place you could have ever imagined or had. And sit there for a moment in this absolutely perfect place, wherever it is for you. Now, if you open your eyes again, boom, you're back in your skin bag. Look at that. What a magic trick, right? So
what are you saying?
What I'm saying is you just went somewhere, but you didn't go somewhere in a way. Do you get what I mean? You are able to go places that are not necessarily restricted by your skin bag. But the second you open your eyes back up again, you're in your skin bag, you're in the world again. And this is what I want you to realize, is that your imagination is not your mind just keeping itself busy. If your body gives you thoughts, and so if I have a thought, most people never ask the question, what's the difference between thoughts and thinking? Right? It's a big question. What is the difference? Why are there two different words? Otherwise, it would be the same word. There must be a difference for us to have two separate words. So the way I perceive it is your mind gives you thoughts. So I might be walking along, and if I was depressed, my mind might say, everyone hates you. Now, most people just believe their thoughts because they think they created their thoughts. So if they created it, we're kind of egotistical creatures. We must believe what we create, right? And so if my mind says, everyone hates you, the average person will go, okay, it's my mind. My brain made that. It must be right because I'm always right. You know, so thought, everyone hates you. And it goes. And people just go, okay. Most people never think. They believe their thoughts. If I was to define thinking, I would say thinking is critically challenging your thoughts. So if I have a thought saying everyone hates me, that's a thought. I immediately think back, says who? You try it one day when something negative comes into your head, and just check, just throw back at it. Don't hesitate. Don't anything. Just immediately turn around and go, says who? To yourself. And you watch your mind go, I said everyone hates you, and you go, where's the proof? No. Challenge your own dogmas.
Well, when you ask that question, where's the proof? Then your mind starts to work on creating the proof. And I think there's actually a way to outthink that when you realize that you can also create reasons that it's not true. You can create reasons that it is true and also reasons that it isn't.
Exactly. And your mind does all sorts of stuff, right? But remember, you are not your mind. If you were your mind, you would have to buy into this bullshit because it's you. But you're not that. You are your consciousness. So just like in meditation, you can separate from your mind. You know, like if someone's being an asshole and they walk up to me in the street, and I've had this happen, and they go, "What the fuck are you?" and they yell at me, I can just walk away and ignore them. I don't have to engage with them. My consciousness can just not engage with them. I can just walk away. I don't need to yell at them. I don't need to teach them. What's the point in talking to someone who just wants to yell at me? Like, I know they want a discharge. I'm not interested in that. They can go find someone who wants to, they can be a negative. They can go find a positive who wants to save them, and those two can go discharge on each other. I'm not interested in that. You know? So I just walk away because it's not love. See, this is the piece, is that the idea of this type of electricity, this is love. It brings things together. It draws the world together. It's static electricity is love in an electrical signal. So if my consciousness is observing my mind, see, my consciousness can either be polar or balanced. And most of the time now it's balanced. Before it was polar. And the reason why it was polar is the four things it was observing kept sending very polar messages. Anything that judges something heavily, that's polarity. You know, it's something trying to find its opposite to destroy itself. You know, everyone hates you. No one wants me to fight back. I'm not fighting back. No, that's just wrong. Okay, mind. And I can recognize, because I'm not my mind, I can separate and say my mind is feeling unwell. My consciousness can be aware that my mind is generating these negative things. It doesn't mean I'm generating them. It just means my mind is generating them. And as my thoughts come in, I can, as you said, I can affect my mind. So my mind affects my consciousness. And if my consciousness allows it, my consciousness will become polar like my mind when it's upset. But I have this ability to influence my mind back by thinking. So it says who? Who says everyone hates me? Why are you upset, mind? What is it? You know, and your mind might go, oh, you need to go talk to your heart. Oh, heart, what's going on here? And your heart's dumping out emotions of feeling upset. The emotions of upset. And if you want to, emotions come out of your heart, and then you want to ask yourself, what am I feeling? If you ask yourself what you're feeling, you kind of get into your emotional structure, into your spirit. You know, and so these things do affect us. These four pillars affect us, but we can affect them just in return. You know, if thought is affecting you, you can think to change your thoughts. If your emotions are affecting you, you can ask what you're feeling to change your emotions. If your body is affecting you with pleasure or pain, you can do things to change its balance. And all of a sudden, you don't need to go buy a fix your life thing. You don't need to buy an overnight being better thing. You're simply realizing that you are free to influence these things around you that you notice, right? And we can do this at a very core level from imagination. You sat there, you imagine something. Imagination is not your mind. Imagination is your consciousness. It's creating. You can create anything in your imagination. Your consciousness can create. And what we choose to create gets fed back into these systems because they're all very carefully amazing electrical link system, right? Because if you think about it, right, everything we do changes that which we do it to. You could look at it, my vape. I could pick it up. I've changed the vape. I've changed its space location. I have a toke on the vape. The juice comes down. Something changes. If I, for example, this is what you get paid for at work. When I was a kid, I used to make hamburgers. So I'd go to work and I would be given a bunch of bits, lettuce and meat and all this stuff. And my job that I got paid for was to change the lettuce and the meat and stuff into a hamburger. You know, you might have a sad friend, and you might talk to them for a while, and you might change them from sad to happy. Everything we interact with, we change. It's like the act of observation changes that which is being observed. This is old scientific law, right? It's very, very simple. So whether you think you're insignificant or not doesn't matter, because anything you touch will change, right? This is what you call transmutation. Some people might call it alchemy. I just call it transmutation, right? So what our consciousness is this observer that is a transmutational being, because it takes information in, does something with it, and outputs back and changes what is there. You take your consciousness, observes the food, you use all four bits of you, the space, your mind, your body, your heart, and you make a hamburger. You know, there's a difference between someone throwing food together and making a loving meal. You know, like the meal mum makes with love is so much different to you know, someone who hates their job as a chef and just dumps food together. They never taste the same. You know, the best example is water. You know, you can make water do amazing magnetic stuff. You know, there's guys who run cars on water and stuff, and stuff's out there. It's real. You know, just because you were told it can't be real, did you just believe someone in a white jacket because they had a white jacket on? You know, I'm not saying you have to believe it, but just challenge it. You know, like just be open. Open your mind. I promise it will not fall out. Okay, it's really important. So we are these transmutational beings. I think that's the best way to say it. No matter what your spiritual doctrine is, people agree with this from every angle of spirituality. We are transmutational beings. We are here as an electrical part of an electrical being in an electrical realm, and we transmute things. You can look at it from a Christian sense, where, you know, God put us here in his world, and we transmute things with, you know, into something or the other. You can look at Buddhists, you know, you can transcend and electrically. It's all the same stuff, really. And so when we transmute things, we can transmute two ways. We can transmute into love, which is this, or we can transmute into fear, right? So it doesn't matter if you're arguing that you have to vaccinate your kids or you don't want to vaccinate your kids. As long as you're in the argument, that's a plus and a minus. Polarities. Those two people will come together, have an argument, and destroy each other, right? Rather than, from the love point of view, if someone said, oh, you have to vaccinate or you have to not vaccinate, I'd say to them, why do you say this? And I'd get to the point where they say, because I love my kids. And this is what I believe is the best thing for my kids. You love your kids. Well, that's great. I love my kids too. So let me be free in my choice, and I'll let you be free in your choice, because we both love our kids, and we don't need to tell each other what to do because we might disagree. Let's just share our information, and we'll come to the best choice. You know, when it comes to how you do anything, it's like, just share the information. Don't, you know, force your opinions into others. Don't get them to try and believe. It's like the reason why people have to shovel their opinions down your throat is because they believe too much bullshit from other people. And they're trying to propaganda themselves with their own bullshit, right? I don't know any answers. I have some ideas to answer some questions. I don't know what the answer is. I don't think we ever know here. You know, we're not supposed to, but I can sit and have some cool conversation, and I can, you know, and talk about some stuff. But I'll give you a little example just for this. And we're coming to the end here. If we have 10 hot dogs and 2 people, right? Lots of hot dogs and only 2 people. Most people won't care who eats what hot dog, right? If you're one of the 2 people, you'll be like, hey, dude, you want to share a hot dog? We got like 5 each, right? So no one's going to go hungry. No one cares. It's cool. You know, that's love. You know, there's plenty of hot dogs. We're okay. You know, if we have 2 hot dogs and 10 people, what normally happens? Everyone's like, I want the hot dog, right? That's fear. It's transmuting those hot dogs. Love or fear. Like there's people and hot dogs. That's all you got. You can either transmute it with love in saying, well, you know, there's enough, we're okay. Or you can transmute in fear saying, I need that hot dog because there's only 2 of them, there's 10 of us. And I'll beat your ass up to get that hot dog. And this is what the world's kind of in, is this, we reward people for transmuting into fear. You know, if you scare someone into buying something, you're rewarded with a commission. They don't care how you got the sale. You made the sale, here's the money. And the fastest way to get people to do stuff is to make them scared. You know, you must do this. Look at parents. It's like, you know, with a kid, it's like, oh, what? I don't want to eat my broccoli, mum. You must eat your broccoli or you'll be in trouble from your dad. It's fear. Rather than saying, hey, guess what? Broccoli makes you really big and strong and positive. You know, it makes you feel better. And encouraging the kid, because approaching things with love takes more time. You can't, but think about it this way. It's like human beings are the only thing that react to fear so significantly. If you go beat the shit out of a tree, it doesn't grow any faster. If you go kick a cow, it doesn't produce more milk. It actually produces less milk. But if you scare a human being, they work harder. We're the only thing I know of that goes harder when we're scared. Everything else is kind of like, screw your fear. Because they're all love-based. We're the things that are dealing. We're the broken thing in this world in a weird sense. We're the only ones that get caught in fear. So whether you have 2 hot dogs and 10 people, whereas most people are scared, or 10 hot dogs and 2 people, which most people are loving, no one ever says to me, are there any more hot dogs coming? No one ever says that to me when I ask the question, what do you do when you have these hot dogs? But this is the piece where we get lost in the moment, in just a second of this moment of going, oh, there's only 2 hot dogs, there's 10 people. Oh my God, I'm scared. And then you're polar, and then that's it, game over. You're going to fight. And then we don't get anywhere. We just destroy ourselves. Rather than saying, I mean, a smart person might go, hey, let's just cut the hot dogs up so that there's 10 parts. Just cut each hot dog into 5. We can all share a little bit of a hot dog. That's kind of much more loving, But someone else who's really loving, who has trust in, if you have a deep spiritual trust, soulful trust in the universe, you know that there's going to be another hot dog sometime. And if you truly are, good people have good things happen to them. I mean, not judging good or bad is, it's more just loving people attract these things, because love as a magnetic freaking action, an electric action, will draw things to you. It's what makes people truly magnetic. They have this love, there are some people who are magnetic that aren't with love. And I think this is the important thing, is that if your consciousness, which I think our consciousness is our soul. I think our spirit's slightly different to our soul. I think our soul is the eternal thing. So realistically, you are this consciousness. You have a mind that gives you thoughts, and you can think in return. You have a spirit or a heart that gives you emotions, and you can ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? And it changes it. You have a body that says, I'm in pleasure or pain, and you can do things to adjust the pleasure and pain. If you go to the gym and you hurt yourself and your body sends you a pain signal, you can rest to give yourself a chance for your body to re-equalize itself. And so if you start managing yourself as a consciousness, looking after these 4 pillars as children, care for these 4 pillars like they're children, the space around you, if it's all artificial, we project ourselves into the space around us. If your space is all artificial, you can't see the mortality of you. And dying is a beautiful thing. It means you're real, right? That's the beautiful part. We're all born with this thing called death that we're terminally ill to. And we get scared of it. And it's like most people are here being alive, waiting to die, rather than being here, being alive, living, right? That's the important part. So what I really want to get through is why are we here? We're this awareness, and we transmute absolutely everything we experience. And we either transmute it into love or fear. The details are up to you. And the cool thing is that when we realize we are that consciousness, we create our own supply of hot dogs. And that's what's important, because we cannot heal these 4 parts of ourselves without starting to heal this thing in the middle. And we can't heal this thing in the middle until we sit with it and be in it and be ourselves. And when we sit there in our consciousness and just be aware, not doing anything, love is being still. Static electricity is being still. From an electrical point of view, it's like 0 is completely stationary. And then things either become +1 or -1 mathematically. They keep going up the scales, but let's just keep it simple. You have 0. Then you're either going to go to +1 or -1. Doesn't matter which way you go. But as soon as you do +1 or -1, you're polar. Come back to 0, you're still again. All right. So when you're balanced, you're still. And it's like, +1 or -1. I look at +1, -1, you can say male, female. So when 2 people, a +1, a male meets a -1, a female, they come together, they have sex, they create this thing, a 0. And it's a new entity. It's an embryo. And that 0 is no gender until no sexual organs, no sexual polarity until 8 to 12 weeks. Then at 8 to 12 weeks, it gets like a plus or a minus, as per se. You know what I mean? I'm not talking about how you feel or how you identify. That's that's a whole separate thing that I don't really understand. But I respect people for what they want. I'm just talking about a biological sex type thing right now, right? So at 8 to 12 weeks, it becomes a plus or a minus. And everything in this world, we have day and we have day, we have night. We have up, we have down. We have right, we have left. Everything in this world goes +1, -1. But there's this zero always. And the reason why science doesn't understand love is it's looking for, it doesn't understand love, but it doesn't understand life, is because it's looking at the +1 and -1 to understand life. But life comes from the zero, not the +1 and -1. Those two come together to create a zero electrically. And that's what, boom, this is what true creation is when you sit still. But the thing is all these little bits are kept so polar. Your mind is kept busy with advertising saying you're not good enough unless you buy our shit. Oh, I need that. Otherwise, no one will like me. Jim Carrey says it beautifully. Your need to fit in will make you invisible in this world, because you are taught that you are a soul inside of a limited body, when the truth is you are a body that is part of a limitless soul. And that's where you've got to go. And once I started to realize that I am consciousness and I have a mind, man, tell you what, some days my mind gets very polar. It throws some huge crap at me. And I got to like consciously be aware and do things. I've got to, give my mind some love somehow. I've got to think in a positive sense. Some days my heart is hurting. It's got all these emotions of pain coming at me. And I've got to ask myself, why am I feeling this way? What am I scared of? Because remember that when we die, this thing that we are doesn't go away. It goes somewhere. I'm not going to argue where. I don't know. I haven't died. But it's there still, clearly, scientifically. It still stays there. So what's your heart worried about? There's always going to be another hot dog. I think you got to remind your heart, it's okay, there's another hot dog coming, And then your body gives you these pleasure and pains. And people are like, I want to be in pleasure. It doesn't matter. Pleasure or pain, it's just your body telling you you're out of balance. If you eat too much ice cream, you get pleasure. Why is the pleasure there? Your body telling you, stop doing this, you're going to have a tummy ache. Stop eating all this sugar. It's going to cause the body to crash from an acidic point of view. Pleasure and pain are your body telling you you're out of balance. And what do you do to create the balance back again? You choose, and you go for a walk, whatever else, simple exercise. And your space, you've got to remember, have stuff that's organic. So, I started to think, how do you at a simple level, once you kind of get that your consciousness, how do you do this? Well, these things are a great bloody invention. Okay. These little creatures are just such a cool little thing that will keep your mind busy. Anyone can learn how to solve a Rubik's Cube. You're told that it's impossible, but when you actually go look up YouTube, it sounds a little tricky to start with, but it's very easy, really. You don't need to think about this thing. You just learn how to put one color matching another color in a particular location relative to another color, and then how to do a move. It's just like learning a martial art. You learn to do this, and that happens. Cause and effect. These things are great. They keep your mind busy. Fidget spinners, not a big fan of. I think if kids had Rubik's Cubes instead of fidget spinners, they'd have something to play with, but it would keep their mind busy. If you can't focus on your breathing because just your mind is too hectic, give it something a bit harder to focus on, right? Like that. Something for your body, for example, that I love. Check out my balls. Right? But yeah, like these things, they're called bounding balls, right? And they're these Chinese things. I'm doing a whole bunch of videos on hummingmountains.org, and you'll be able to see all these things. But you rotate these balls in your hand, keeping them separate, and it keeps your body busy, just like the Rubik's Cube. These are called cognitive exercises. A cognitive exercise is something that uses two of these pillars at the same time, or three or four even, uses multiple pillars. So if you ride a unicycle, you're having to use your mind, you're having to use your body, and you're having to be aware of space. So you're using three of these things. If you're using bounding balls, it's your mind and your body, and you're keeping the balls separate so you're aware of space. You're using this, you're moving things from one point to another. You're using multiples of these, right? And they're very simple. If your body is out of balance, help it restore the balance. This stuff here, Himalayan salt, right? You can get like little inhalers, Himalayan salt inhalers, and you sit there and breathe in Himalayan salt. Now, Himalayan salt is got 87 minerals, more minerals than I can even remember, right? But it's got some big ones. It's got some magnesium, because magnesium is really good for your joints in small amounts. It's got potassium. Your heart runs off potassium, right? And it's got a whole bunch of sodium and some other very cool stuff. Go have a look at it. You'll find some amazing things. It helps restore the balance in your body. But recently, the thing I really want to get to is these things. Okay. I'll get a link. It's up on hummingmountains.org. These are mushrooms, right? Fully organic, grown naturally. These things are just food, nothing more than food. but they're foods that do amazing things to you. They are food that has electrical signature that helps the rest of your electrical signature, right? Because cans of Coke and hot dogs don't really have good electrical signatures. You know, how good do you think the electrical signature of, of a hot dog is? It kind of, the idea of kind of saying grace for your food before you eat it, whether you be religious or not, that's a cool idea. Just changing the electrical signature of what you're about to put into your body, right? It's like you look at the older religions, like the Jews and things like that. They have their, their, what's it called? Kosher. It's that things have to be killed with a way of respect. I'm not saying it's necessarily right or wrong, but I'm just saying they're thinking about their food. All the ancient cultures thought about what they're imbibing before they put it in their mouth. They made sure, Dr. Emoto, hidden messages in water, these types of things. Like most people don't realize how electrical water is, but I'll just quickly show you a photo. I hope it comes up. Do you see that? Mm-hmm. This is a glass of water that's been frozen. This occurs when water becomes magnetic on its own. That's called the dielectric electric plane. There's a little north pole coming out and a south pole. All of this was totally frozen, but some of it has bubbles and others doesn't. This is understanding magnetic water. I'll be doing videos on that, explaining it all. Right? What it's about is realizing that consciousness you have is where you sit. And it's okay, because you can have a completely healthy consciousness in a very unhealthy mind, or a very unhealthy heart, or a very unhealthy body, or a very unhealthy space. It doesn't make you broken. It just means that your consciousness has to deal with the crap that comes out of that imbalanced part of you. It's about restoring the balance, bringing it back with love. And you do that with love. Yeah, you really do that with love. And so all of this actually began, just to bring it to conclusion. I hope you guys can see this, but I'll put it up on the website anyway, hummingmountains.org.
Oh yeah, it's clear now, for sure.
There you go. This is what I'm talking about. Screenshot this, people. I'm one of those junkies who has to screenshot everything cool I see on a YouTube video, right? Screenshot this. This is what I've been talking about the whole time. This is us as consciousness, where this is what the water looks like. This is why. These are the north poles and the south poles, and they're rotating, like I told you. It's spiraling forces. Yeah, we've got your mind gives you thought. Your consciousness receives the thought. It can output thinking. Your spirit or your heart sends you emotions. Your consciousness is aware of them. What does it do with it? It sends back, what am I feeling here? Your body sends you pleasure and pain signals. And your consciousness, the choices you consciously make, change the balance of it. And then your space. When you understand electrical universe, an atom only has the amount of energy in its surrounding environment. So if you have a very weak environment with no energy in it, you won't be able to have any energy. So go for a walk somewhere where there's a lot of energy, not the polar energy, the static energy. Go for a walk in the bush. Hug a tree. I know it sounds like full hippie and everything, but seriously, just go hug a tree if you have to, because that tree's got roots that go deep into the ground, and that's where all the deep electrical stuff happens. That's where huge gravity comes from. Yeah. This here is a gift that you can give yourself. This is what you are, this thing in the middle. You are not these other things. You are aware of these other things, but you are this. And this makes choices, either to be in love or fear all the time, constantly. And that's what I want you to understand, is that if you, as soon as you realize you are consciousness, you're not all these other things, you start to be free. And no matter how bad your problems are, they're not insurmountable. They are going to be in one of the four pillars. You just start working away, chipping away at them, bit by bit. And you're not chipping away, you're actually just giving it love. If your mind is busting your hump, do something you love. Go play an instrument, go for a walk, ride your bike, dance, whatever your thing is that you love. As I said, don't be scared about people pointing you out, because don't be worried about fitting in. Because if you're trying to fit in, you'll break all those things. They don't work that way. We don't work that way. But the world is that way, because guess what? People can make a lot of money out of you as long as you're trying to fit in. You're being scared. Yeah. My son, he's like 16. I love him. The kid's he's more aware at his age than I was at his age, to be honest. Some days I get a little jealous of how aware he is, but at the same time, he's still a teenager. He's trying to find his place in the world. And he comes home and he talks about fashion, and he'll be like, oh, what are you wearing, or whatever else. And I used to get upset, and then I realized, no, that's his journey. And so I talk to him now about stuff, and tell him, oh, you got this and that, and there's love. You know, I love that he's found something he loves. Go, tell me about your fashion. I love that you tell me about your fashion. You know, it doesn't interest me personally, but he interests me. And I care and I love him, you know, so I want him to talk to what he loves about me, you know, talk about what you love with people, but also allow them to do the same, you know, but come together. I think this is the key piece we have to realize in this world. You know, if we are all separate, thinking that we're all individual, you know, if you think you're your iPhone, what happens when the battery goes flat? You're screwed. If you realize you're an aerial, it means there is always a hope for you. You can go sit somewhere at the beach, in the desert, in the bush, somewhere where there's where there's very little polar electricity. And that's where you begin, being still. And if you feel like you have to move, that's okay. If your mind's saying, get up and move, you can't sit still, say, it's okay, mind. Consciousness says we can. And your mind might argue and you just sit with it. And your spirit may be saying, I'm feeling weird because I'm not used to sitting still. And you can go, I know we're feeling that way because we don't normally do this, but it's okay. We're going to do this. And the reason why we're doing this is so we balance. And your body will yell out going, pipe down there, spirit. We need to balance this because we're out of balance. And then, because you can use each one will feed into the next, into the next, into the next. It's all there. So this is what I want you to understand. Is consciousness, true consciousness. You know, and I can prove it scientifically to you. That's what you are. Don't get caught up in the rest of the stuff, you know, like greed, pain, judging other people, you know, this, oh, you don't believe what I believe, so you're wrong. You know, like, don't just believe what I've said either. Like, I'm the first person to say, never believe anything I say just because I say it. You know, take it on board. Go challenge it. Go do it yourself. You know, go next time your mind says, you suck, everyone hates you. Just straight away say so too. You know, watch it. It can't prove a lie. That's the funny thing. It will make up some huge amounts of bullshit try and prove it, but it can't prove a lie. The truth stands. When your body's sore, don't, you know, it's going pleasure or pain, just balance it out. If you're feeling too happy, calm yourself down. If you're feeling too sad, happy yourself up a bit, but keep yourself in balance. You know, and when you notice yourself, you know, back in the day, I used to get super happy and super sad. You know, it's like a bipolar type thing. You know, I'm not saying I was that, but in that type of vein, you know, so people understand it. You know, and nowadays it's like I just balance myself out, and that's the key. And it's like when you start to manage these things. So instead of getting super upset and then being whatever, if I kind of feel a little tense, I go to a Rubik's Cube, or I'll go for a walk, or I'll have some mushrooms, you know, or some activated charcoal or something, so help my body balance itself out. Or I'll go sit in a space filled with people with love. I don't care what denomination is. Everyone's praying or meditating. I'll just go sit near them. You know, that's what they're doing. They're there for love. Just go sit anywhere near them and just appreciate them for what they're doing. You don't even have to join in. If you can't do it, that's okay. Just sit near them and it will help you. This is what I want you to understand. You don't need to buy the solution. You can walk out and do it for free. I've had 12-year-olds contact me and say, I'm depressed. What do? Go for a walk for 20 minutes outside. Keep your eyes above the horizon. Drink more water. Drink less sugar. There's enough sugar in all the crap. It causes us to be polar like a battery. Cut your sugar levels down. Not saying you can't drink any sugar. Damn, a can of Coke's a nice little treat. I used to drink too much of it. Now it's a treat. I enjoy it. You know, I like to have a lolly every once in a while. You know, this is like the only treat I really have left. I used to smoke over a pack of day of ciggies and way much more than that. And now I just have my vape, and it's my little treat. You know, like you're not here to land in the grave in a single piece. It's okay having some bumps and scratches along the way as you get to the grave. You know, like you're here to live, not to die. Because you're not going to die anyway. So that thing that you are isn't going to end when this ends. You're going to go on somewhere, somehow, don't know, but you'll keep going. So if you get a bump or a bruise, keep going, because you're not here forever. You're wherever we are, wherever else we go. We're there longer than we're here. This is a short time. You can do whatever you want with it. There's no reason to be scared anymore. To get here, you had to do so much more than you ever understand. You made deals to get into this thing you call being alive that you can't even, we can never fathom it. We don't need to. We just need to love the fact that we're here. And when you have pain, love the fact you're in pain. Don't try and hide the pain. Don't try and escape it. Love it. Experience it. Because pain is something, something telling you it's out of balance. And if you constantly ignore the pain signals and suppress them with alcohol, drugs, whatever else, and look, I understand, I'm not judging anyone who drinks or smokes or whatever. I get it. You're in a lot of pain. You're trying to deal with it. All I'm suggesting to you is that the most effective way to deal with it in the long term is to experience it as best you can. You know, and that might just mean having one less drink or having one less cone or, you know, just slowing down on some stuff. and just being more present, being still. You don't need to run. Some days you're going to want to run. Some days you'll sit still, and then eventually your feet will and you'll run out the door, and you'll go for a run, and you'll land back and go, why the hell did I have to run? Because you had to do that. And then the next time you can still a little longer and a little longer. Because remember, we evolve in this. Evolution isn't to do with Darwinism. It's got to do with us growing. And remember to breathe, because just like electrical, you breathe in, you breathe out. Back all those years ago when we used to do the podcast, that's where it started. And I want you everyone to understand, you're loved, you're wanted, you are to be here. You have to be loved, because love is the only thing that creates things into life in this world. Polarity just destroys them. It's like, strangely enough, in 1970, mid-70s, abortion became legal in the United States. And ever since then, the crime rate's actually fallen. I'm not judging abortion. I mean, that's everyone's decision to have. It's a discussion. I'm not making any judgment on it. But what I can tell you is that the crime rate went down since abortion was legalized, which would suggest to me not that abortion is right or wrong, but that whether a kid is wanted or not makes a difference to whether they're a criminal or not. That's all. If we're gonna get rid of things like abortion, we need to make sure that we're loving people, that we want people to be here when we make them. Which means we need to support the people who are in fear so that they can be in love, so that if they do go get pregnant, that kid is wanted. I don't think we do a good job of that in the world right now. I think we all got to step up our game, me included. I'm the first one to say there are days where I'm not loving. There's days where I get cranky with people, but I go back now and I apologize and I explain where my fear was and I explain why I was hurting. They don't need to accept it, but I just own it and I apologize and then I do something loving, and it makes life better. It really does. It's we don't need to get it right every day. Coming from a place of love more often than not will make things right in the long run. Whatever right is, it will figure itself out in this world. We don't need to judge it. It's not our job. We just need to be loving in this world. Transmute everything you transmute. Try do your best to transmute it in love. And if you transmute something into fear, go back, see if you can transmute it into love. Maybe you broke it. Sometimes you rip the piece of paper in half. You can't just put it back together. That's okay. Don't be upset over it. Just remember that happened and wear it as a reminder that next time do it with love. And you got to treat yourself with love before you can treat the world with love. It's really important. I couldn't love things because I couldn't love myself to start with. You got to love yourself. Love that consciousness. There's nothing broken about your consciousness. It's just a balance. I might have a broken mind in the past. I might have had a broken spirit in the past, but my consciousness was never broken. It was always there doing its job. It's just being, observing. And I had to be it rather than other things. And as soon as that happened, the other things got peaceful. Anyway, lots of love to all of you. That's for sure. I've talked too much. That's my talking for like the whole day now.
Wow. I appreciate you sharing all that, Jeremy.
It's okay. I hope it helps. Just give, no matter how hopeless you are, I hope it gives you something to start from, and you're on your own journey. You've got to figure your own thing out. I'm just trying to give you the relationship between the things. It's getting between the lines to the truth. And I think if you get that, then I trust that if you're a loving consciousness, you'll find your way out of the darkness. It does happen. You will find your way out. And when you start to, you'll find loving people. They'll support you. The more support you get from loving people, the more bravery and the more trust and the more honor you'll have. And it's a process, day by day. It's like growing a pot plant, like it takes time.
You said like growing a pot plant?
Well, no, I mean like, a little plant in a pot is what I was talking about. I like that. It's like anything. It's like, an animal growing, a baby growing. It takes day by day. So don't expect it to be fixed. Don't expect it. There is, if anyone tells you you'll be fixed tomorrow, it's bullshit. It takes day by day. And if your consciousness looks back to a week ago and it's doing better, it's got more love in it, be grateful. Say thank you. Keep going. Just one thing. Only got to get one thing right. When I'm in the worst states, when my mind is being the hardest on me, I go help someone. I forget about my problems for a little moment. They turn around, they go, thank you, I really appreciate the help. And how my mind's going, you suck. Well, when someone says, I love that you helped me, my mind kind of goes, damn, I kind of got proven wrong. But I go, that's okay, mate. I still love you anyway. You give me all these other cool thoughts. Not every thought has to be great, you know. And I still love my mind, even when it does dump shit on me, you know. Like, love it, you know. And don't be scared of it, you know. Don't worry about it. We're here for purpose. There is always purpose because you're here. That is purpose itself. You know, I had this tweet when I used to be on Twitter. I'm not on any social media nowadays, but it said, everything is, if you think you don't matter, realize that you do, because everything is matter, unless it's antimatter, in which case it matters even more. And I'll leave everyone on that thought. Or maybe you might think about it or see how you feel about it.
I don't know what antimatter is. That's what I was thinking.
You'd have to ask a scientist. Some dude in a white coat told me about it. I don't know.
Okay.
It's pulling rather than pushing. There you go. Antimatter is pushing. Antimatter is pulling. It's the easiest way to think of it. And pulling is love. Bringing things together is love. So, you know, it's like this is the, you know, there's nothing wrong with money in the world. It's how people give up their self-reliance and put it into money that causes them the problems, you know, not the other way around. You know, nothing is inherently good or evil here. It's how we transmute it. That's really the good or bad, right or wrong, whatever you want to look at it. You know, I can't judge. As I said, I just bring things together. Be peaceful. Realize there's always another hot dog coming somewhere. If you have true faith in that hot dog coming, it turns up, because magnetically, electrically, you will find the other hot dog. The other hot dog will find you. That's what you got to realize. We are transmutational beings that transmute everything we experience into love or fear. And we are always gravitating the next hot dog towards us, or mushroom. Yeah, I'm not necessarily the magic ones that trip you out. There's a lot of brilliant mushrooms. You know, it's all the other mushrooms. Go have a look at hummingmountains.org, and you'll start to see a lot of them there. And just some of the things they do. And they're food. They don't fix you overnight, but they're food that give you incredible electricity. And then that makes it easier to get on top of your mind. You know, because your imagination. I just want to say this: your imagination and your dreams are in this bit of consciousness. You know, people say, stop imagining things. Oh, it's just a dream. No, your imaginations and your dreams are your consciousness talking to itself. That's your secret. You want to change the world? Imagine a better world. And then your dreams will show you how to get there. You don't need any other book. You don't need to buy a book on how to fix your life. Just imagine something beautiful, and your dreams will show you how to go.
Wow. Thank you.
You're welcome, man. Well, thank you for taking the time to do this nowadays. I've kind of, as you said, I've gone into reclusivity. I just, I like hiding out up here. I have a beautiful family. I have the most beautiful woman I've ever met in my entire life. She looks after me so well, you know. I can never say thank you enough, Sammy. You're just the greatest thing I ever met, you know. So, you know, it's nice to have someone like you who's still plugged into the World Wide Webbles, you know, with all of your people. Because I just, you know, as I said, I might be hiding out here, but there's no point in me doing this just for me, you know. I might as well give it out to you guys. And I just hope someone who watches this, even if it's 10 years down the line, I hope someone who watches this thing maybe just realizes you are love. You can be more love than you've been yesterday, and there's nothing wrong that you weren't yesterday, you know. Just your choice. It's consciousness. You're not controlled by anything except your choice of what you consciously choose.
Beautiful. So thank you guys for tuning in to this broadcast. If you want to learn more about what Jeremy's up to, you can head over to, it was hummingmountains.org, right?
That's it. I'll make sure I put a link to this as well on the website, just in case anyone can't find it. You got your links, and we'll just make sure it's around. And feel free, if you want to talk about this stuff, people, go talk about it. Remember, like, if you say something in life, if you speak, someone's going to slam you and troll you. If you don't speak, someone's going to screw you over. So be honest. Speak as little as you need to be honest, and it's worth it always. Share the good things, share the love, you know, but from a conscious point of view, not from some hippie crap. Share it from some deeper, meaningful place. It's all that matters.
Beautiful. All right. Well, have a good night, everyone. Have a good night, Jeremy. And I will see you guys soon.
Thank you for having me, man. Lots of love.
Absolutely.